I want to go over with you a couple of things about the world behind the text when it comes to Judges. We've done this a couple of times now. Um, there are a couple of things that you need to know when it comes to the archaeological evidence that we have for the time of the Judges. The very first thing that I want to show you has to do with this idea called syncretism, meaning that the people of God are worshiping Yahweh, but also worshiping other gods at the same time. And this is one of the inscriptions that we have from around the time of the Judges. And the inscription says, Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. So the assumption is that this one is Yahweh and this one is Asherah. And that we've got a bringing together of the different kind of worship that would be taking place in the land of Canaan among the people who do not know God, as well as bringing Yahweh into this. And so we've got this sort of thing that goes along with what we see in the book of Judges. We can point to this stuff archaeologically. We also can go throughout Israel and we find all of these little idols. And you remember from Genesis that Yahweh is not supposed to have any idols. Yahweh is not supposed to have any images on earth because we are that image, right? Human beings are that image. However, when we go into Israelite towns from this time period, we find that they have these little fertility goddesses in their houses and a variety of other small gods. And so you can see that these are fertility goddesses because they're holding up their boobs to show that they're very fertile and they're good to go. So you would have these little idols in your house if you wanted your wife to get pregnant or if you wanted the ground to produce a lot of food, different fertility things that you'd be hoping for. And then finally, we've also got little incense altars that we find all over Israel from this time period. And this just goes to show that people are worshiping Yahweh in their houses, and they're not supposed to be doing that. They're supposed to be going to the tabernacle. These incense altars are about yay high. They're supposed to be going to the tabernacle to worship Yahweh in the place where Yahweh lives, right? Because we talked a lot about how Yahweh lives there. So all of that goes along with what we're seeing in the Judges. Another thing that we have from this time period is the Mereneptah Stela. Now, I love this, and so you're going to need to pay close attention and take good notes here. The Mereneptah Stela is a victory stela. That means like a victory, I don't know, when you were victorious in battle in the ancient Near East, you'd take a piece of stone, you'd stand it up really high, and you'd write all over it and say, I beat the bad guys, yay for me. So that's what this is. This is a victory stela from King Mereneptah, and he was actually, we could say Pharaoh Mereneptah. He was a pharaoh in Egypt around 1200 BC, which is the time of the Judges. And he is patting himself on the back for coming into Canaan and plundering a bunch of different groups. He says, Ashkelon has been overcome, Gezer has been captured, Ya'anoam is made non-existent, and Israel is laid to waste. Now, you see that I've got a little asterisk next to all of these. Each one of these in this beautiful inscription has a signifier next to it called a determinative, and it's just a little hieroglyph that indicates that Ashkelon, Gezer, Ya'anoam, all three of those are established city-states. That means they've got a king and they've got people that are a part of their polis or what's going on there in that city-state. So Ashkelon, Gezer, and Ya'anoam are established. They've got a hieroglyph where the King Mereneptah is like, yeah, these are established places that I've taken over. Israel has no determinative, which indicates that it is a loose confederation of tribes at this time. So two things I want you to know about the Mereneptah Stela. One, Israel in it does not have a determinative, which means that during this time, it was a loose confederation of tribes, and that goes right along with what we see in the book of Judges. There appears to be a loose confederation of tribes just trying to figure it out. And also, the second thing I want you to know is that this is the very first mention of Israel outside of the Bible. So this is the earliest mention of Israel that we have that's not in the biblical text, and that comes from around 1200 BC. Two very important things to know. All right, last world behind the text thing. So there are this group of people that we hear about from the Egyptians. When we go to Egypt, we see that they're always writing about this group of people called the Sea Peoples. And the Sea Peoples are a group of people who have come to the coast, and they're seafaring people. They're called the Sea Peoples. They've come to the coast, and they're trying to infiltrate into Egypt and along the coast of Canaan and even up further. So we've got this group of people. They invade the coast of Canaan. They cause a lot of trouble for the Egyptians, and they come in around the same time as the Israelites. The Israelites are coming from this side because they're crossing the Jordan, and they're coming into Canaan this way, and the Philistines are coming, or the Sea Peoples are coming in this way. Now, in the inscriptions that we have from Egypt, there are a group of people within the Sea Peoples that they refer to as the Peliset. Those are likely to be the Philistines of the Old Testament. You'll remember the stories with Samson have him dealing with the Philistines a lot. So there you go. Here is a little map for you. Right here, we've got Israelites in Judah, and the Philistines are hammering out their own little location right here along the coast. And so the way I want you to think about this is kind of as a sumo wrestling match, that the Israelites are coming in from this side, and the Philistines are coming in from this side, and they're running into each other, and they're trying to push one another out of the land because this is the nice arable land right here. And both of them really want that land. So those are your world behind the text things. Now I just want to wrap up all of Judges. This will be your final point on the book of Judges. What we've seen so far in the book of Judges, and this is the last thing that we're going to see, is that the people of God are finally in the land, but they are farther and farther away from God as they continue on this downward spiral. They have failed to orient their life around God like we found that they were supposed to do in the book of Leviticus, and instead they've oriented their lives around what's easy. The different gods of the land, going after things that the people of the land are going after. They've oriented their lives around what's easy rather than what is right. And by the very end of Judges, starting with that story of the concubine and ending with the wives for Benjamin story, we keep hearing this refrain again and again. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they saw fit. So when you turn to the very end of Judges, what you're going to find is again and again from chapters 17 to 21, your Deuteronomist, the author, keeps putting this phrase in there. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they saw fit. So that's an indication to you that the people of God might need a king. Maybe the judges are not working out for them like they should have. And so the people of God need a king to come and institute proper worship of God and life oriented around God, the way that it's supposed to be, the way that we find out in Leviticus it's supposed to be. But by the end of the Judges, the bottom has fallen out. Things have gotten so bad that it's a really desperate situation. Terrible things are happening to the least of these, to concubines and to young women who are being snatched. And in those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they saw fit. So it seems like we need a king who's going to take care of the least of these. And that is the final word when it comes to Judges. We need a king who's going to take care of people. That's the way this story ends. So next, we're going to find out what happens when they get a king.